Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we are reading Alan Scott Green Lantern, and that's in celebration of Pride Month. You guys voted, and you wanted us to read this. So, I've not read this before. I'm not that familiar with Alan Scott other than what I've read in some JSAs that I've been reading recently, like Justice Society of America, because that's the team he's on. And then also, like, I knew, like, his weakness is wood, kind of like the 60s Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, his weakness was yellow. It was like, okay, I guess I just pick stuff randomly to make a weakness or something.
Yeah, you gotta have an odd weakness, to be a superhero.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, like this won the poll, and I was pretty excited. I have not read anything by the writer Tim Sheridan. And I didn't know anything other than I think he's gay. If not, he'd handled the subject material well. But I'm pretty sure he is. From other titles I looked up, it seemed like he was writing for like the Pride comics and stuff for DC. So I think they highlight gay writers, or LGBTQ writers. So anyway, but yeah, so this was like a good story because I don't remember when they did. I think they did it in like 2011 or something, but they retconned Alan Scott to be gay. So originally he was just Green Lantern, had a wife, had kids, and around the end of the 2010s, they were like, okay, we want to like add some diversity and stuff. So I don't know what the comic was that they did it in, but they said he was gay. And it was made like, I think his wife died or something by that time. So it was like, he could just be like, I'm finally allowed to be who I am. You know, I love this woman, but like the true me is I'm a gay guy. So, yeah. And he's got kids and stuff, which is talked about in this. So
I actually read a little bit about that portion of it, because I guess part of the thing we'll learn about Alan Scott is all the people that he chooses are not always the best choices. And the woman that he fell in love with in the retcon is that like they fell in love and was so in love, it was like he just loved her so much, and like he's like, yeah, well, we could have kids together, sure, like you're amazing. But it was still like platonic, supposedly. But anyway,
it's kind of like Stuck Rubber Baby, right? Like,
yeah,
where he's like, I need to be straight, you know, like, and I kind of like this woman. She's fascinating, and I like her a lot. Maybe that's love or whatever, you know. So
yeah, exactly. And a lot especially for the time that's you read a lot of stories like that where you're like, because of the time, it's like I'm forcing myself to like, well, maybe I'm not. I don't know these feelings right, and maybe I do really love this woman. Like, she's amazing. She's my best friend or whatever. So, but anyway, the woman is, what is her character is, she's like split personality. Like half her personality is really good, and then half it's like Rose and Thorn, I think, something like that. And so she's like, when she's really good, she's really good, and when she's really bad, she's really bad. And so like from that, she finally leads into her stuff and like leaves him. Yeah. And then they had two kids together who also have superpowers apparently. So.
Yes. I know about them because I've read the recent JSA stuff and they're in that. So, and then some of the stuff since then I've read with them in it too. I just know that they're his kids, but I didn't really know how that worked, or like, I knew he was married, but I was like, how did they retcon that? Or like, how did they balance that with him being gay and stuff? I didn't know. So, cool. Good job doing the research on that. You know what? I went crazy as well, and I'll kind of spoil it. This story is about Alan Scott's first love, who ends up being his first nemesis, I guess, technically, or whatever. And I was like 100% sure this was not the first like appearance of that guy. And I'm like, where is the first appearance of this guy? And it was like 2022. I'm like, no, there's no way that this is, there's like, I thought they were just kind of like only focusing, because this is what'll happen. I'll try to do research on characters that they've retconned, and I can only find the stuff that's retconned.
The retcon stuff.
I can't find the original, like, what was it? And then they retconned it. So I thought that's what was happening. I thought it was, this character was around and then they retconned it for this storyline. And no, apparently not. Apparently his first appearance was in a Jeff Johns comic in 2022. And then from that one shot, they like spun off this series and a couple other Golden Age character series. And so, but that's actually good, because I was like, it really feels like this character was original to, the 30s and 40s,
Exactly. I feel that, right. Like, as I'm reading this and when we were talking about that, like a little beforehand, is that he doesn't feel like a new character. Like, this feels like an old style, like, you have that old trope of like the hero, the antithesis of that, his villain is like almost the exact opposite of him, but like him, right? Like, it's just a mirror version of himself, but like flipped. And so like, that was really like, this story felt really classic, but in a new way because of that. And so, yeah, it's really interesting and cool kind of to have that feel with it being a brand new character.
Yeah. So with that being said, we'll just get straight into it after 15 minutes of talking or whatever. Like we said, this is called Alan Scott's Green Lantern, and it's from 2023. It starts off with a newspaper page kind of updating us on Green Lantern's exploits. Turns out he's kind of a loner at this time. He is part of the JSA, but only because he was kind of blackmailed to be part of them by J. Edgar Hoover. Because J. Edgar Hoover found out that he's gay. And so he's blackmailing him. And so that's why he's like, okay, I guess I have to, play the ball with the government and be part of this team. He's also, the reason why he doesn't want to be in a team is because he's worried that he will get found out by the team members, So that's like always on his mind. So he's like, I can't really be, myself around people in a team. What if they find out about me and all that? So, but in the file that J. Edgar Hoover throws down, we see a picture of him and his lover, we're assuming, because they're holding each other they're embracing each other on the floor, and there's pictures of them kissing. And so we find out this is like from their time in the military. I don't know. Do they say what they're in? What branch? Are they in the Navy? I assume, because they're on ships. But
yeah, I think they're in the Navy.
Okay. And so it's just about him and this guy. What's his name? I totally forgot what his name is.
Johnny.
There you go. I got confused because I was like, I already spoiled it, but this guy ends up being the bad guy or whatever. And so I was like, oh, I know his Russian name, but I don't remember what his actual, or his like covert name was, or what his undercover name. So yeah, Alan falls in love on a ship with this guy named Johnny. They're hitting it off. Everything's going good. Like we learn a little bit about Johnny. Like he has a ring that says, that it was like a championship ring for baseball from some Florida college or whatever. And yeah, Alan's just totally in love with this guy while trying to. It's like they're always like trying to be together, but also keeping up appearances for their superior officers, because they can't be gay or else they'll get kicked out because they're not allowed to be. Kind of like in Suck Rubber Baby. Once they found out he was gay, like, well, you can't be in the military. So, but yeah, so the whole reason why they're here is they work for the Army Corps, or no, are they with the Army Corps of Engineers? So they're in the Army, but they're on a Navy ship.
Yes. I'm sorry. You're right. That's right. Because specifically they're part of the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah. Because there's this thing called what is it called? The Crimson Red.
The Crimson
Red.
Flame.
The Crimson Flame. It's called the Crimson Flame.
Oh my God. Yes. The Crimson Flame.
Yeah. It's a red power, and it's the Crimson Flame. Also, this has nothing to do with like the Red Lanterns that we know from like the Jeff Johns run.
Not the ragey.
Yeah, not
bloody.
Rage or whatever. So this is they're on this mission because this Crimson Flame power is supposed to be supposedly in this, in the ocean somewhere deep below. They're trying to capture it before Hitler, who is, because this takes place in like 1939 or something, right? Close to that. So they're like, we're trying to find it before Hitler does, so that we can, and before the Russians as well, because at the time the Russians were sided with the Nazis. And so they're trying to find this power. They needed like a vessel to contain it because it's like pure energy or whatever. And so that's why they need Alan Scott and Johnny, his boyfriend, because they're Army Corps engineers. So they built this containment vessel to hold this power. And then we get a little bit of that. Then we cut back to present day. Now, my biggest problem with some of this was like the cuts. At least the version that I was reading, I could not tell. I was reading the actual like trade. So I'm reading it right now as we're talking. I'm like going through it page by page, and I'm seeing there is a difference in the digital, but in the printing that I have, like that's the physical one, I could like when it's the old moments, like the past. Sometimes they'll just cut to that in the middle of a page, and I didn't know. And I'm like, wait, what happened? Where are we at? And they do this like dot matrix over it in the digital version, so I guess you can tell.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't see it as much. Yeah, in the old when it's in the past, the colors are much more muted and like you said, there's.
But it didn't look like that in my printed version. I don't see the colors being muted. I see the dot matrix put over everything, and that kind of gives it a opaque look or whatever, because it's like black kind of over or gray that's been put over it. So I didn't see that in my printing. So I kept like going between pages, and unless they said the year, I was like, wait, did we jump? Where are we at?
Wait, what's happening? Yeah.
And there's 3 different time periods. There's the past, the present, and then there's a present, or like there's a past 1939. There's the past 1941, and then there's the present. I don't even know what the current present is, where he's telling this story to his son. We don't know it's his son until the end, but like that's going on too. So they're cutting back and forth between some of those things, and I'm like, wait, where are we at now? like they didn't say the date again, so I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, we cut to 1941, and Alan is back. This is when he's supposed to be on the JSA. He's being blackmailed to be there, and he's getting like all his like news about like how he's supposed to go fight crimes from like the radio and stuff. So he gets a call, or he hears about a gunman that's robbing a bank or something, right? There's hostages, and he goes, Green Lantern, he gets in his garb and then goes over there. Then we cut back to the past, where we see the relationship between him and his boyfriend Johnny growing, until eventually they do find the crimson flame in the ocean, and it starts powering up like around them, and they're like, oh my god, we found it, and it's coming straight at us basically. And when I say straight at us, it's like from the ocean floor. And so all these like the red beams are coming out of the ocean. So they're like, okay, we got the machine ready. There's a movie where I can't remember what it is that reminds me of this, where it's like, we have to capture this energy that's coming out right now. They open the container. I can't remember what it is though. But it's a very familiar feeling, at least, where they're like, they open this containment thing. I didn't really understand how it worked. I don't know about you, John. They're on a ship. It seems to be getting overwhelmed by this, but there's a box that's on the ship that's pretty small.
It's working.
Yeah, that contains this whole bunch of energy.
That's how you know it's working. They said it out loud.
They said it out loud. It is working.
I don't know. You know how I pictured it, like Ghostbusters, like so like they open the trap or whatever, and then like woo, it pulls the energy in.
Yeah, but then the box, it's like it doesn't matter how big the thing is, it'll fit in it or whatever, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this was very much like that. But anyway, you go along with it. It's superhero comics, so we're not expecting it to be like flawless or something. But Once you go with the story, you're going with it. So
I mean, yeah, it's Green Lantern is like magically and like weird science stuff. So like, yeah, like where we can suspend our.
yeah, it's mystical, magical stuff. So, but the thing is, like, they're like, we got it, but it's like it's still coming out of the water and whatnot. So I'm like, okay, they got a piece of it, and that's all they needed, or they don't need the whole thing, I guess. I don't know. Because it's still like sinking their ship, and it looks like this ship's gonna fly over, and then Alan like gets an idea to like let a little bit of the energy out, or else it's gonna tip the ship, and then he does it, and then that's like Johnny's with him, and it flies out, or if Johnny flies out off the ship as it like corrects itself, and then he gets like sucked in by the crimson flame into the ocean. So it's like that's how Johnny died, and that's like his first love, and he's like, oh my god. And after that, like he's never been the same. So,
and we do learn that from this that apparently the flame itself too is sentient. It's like intelligent.
Yeah, it's talking to them and stuff. Yeah. So that's what happened in the past. In the present, we're watching Green Lantern come in to save people, and as he's like, I think their radio even said like Green Lantern's there already, and he's like, no, they're not. Like, I'm here. So like, he's like, those news reporters are getting ahead of themselves. But then he goes to there, and there's people, like he finds bodies of people on a roof, or specifically one guy, I guess, and it's a guy he knows. He's like, what the heck? That's crazy. And so basically he's confronted by like this body that he knows of a lover that he had specifically. And it looked like he drowned, but it also looked like he was burned, which is weird. But it wasn't, this body is not the friend of his friend Johnny, right? Or his lover Johnny. So it's a different boyfriend he had at a different point. So yeah, it's a little bit interesting. Like they set up a good mystery here of like who's killing these people. And then that's all interwoven with how Johnny died, basically. Like the finding of this other lover is mirroring that, well, kind of what happened to Johnny. So because of his, I guess, action, like the way he was responding to like trying to save Johnny, I guess the government was like, it's more than friends trying to save each other. You're obviously gay lovers or whatever. So they arrest him and then put him in Arkham, which apparently at this time was a gay conversion, like mental facility.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I think I guess they maybe kind of put it in more of like broad terms of like they call it the deviancy wing, so of Arkham. So maybe all types of depravities that what they would say were at the time, which obviously, being gay or it's crazy. That
meanwhile they're like lobotomized people or whatever. So which is funny. Like, what's the deviancy wing? Wouldn't that be all of like Batman's villains and stuff?
Yeah, you would think. That guy thinks he's a clown.
Yeah, and
lobotomizing.
He's a murderer and all this stuff.
That's true. That's the answer for everything back then. What do you think? You don't think normal white hetero male should like this is all good? Oh well, then you're crazy,
dude. That didn't even matter. That was like, oh, for sure you're getting lobotomized. I researched this a bit because I couldn't believe that it actually happened. But when like lobotomies were like the cure all for everything, there was a doctor who would go around. I can't even remember his name. They called him like Dr. Lobotomy or something. And he would go around in like a lobotomy mobile and just like, hey, your kid's acting up. Like your kid has HEHD and like, yeah, he's going to get a lobotomy and he'll be fine after that. Your wife, she's not satisfied and like listless and not happy being a housewife. Well, I'll just put an ice pick in her eye and, swish it around a little bit in her brain and bam, she just shuts the fuck up. And I mean, she doesn't do any housework anymore, but she's not sad. Like, yeah, I've read lots of stories where that was a thing. It was just They had the hubris to think that was
That was
okay.
solving. Now, I will say, with a lot of bad things going on, maybe a lobotomy wouldn't be that bad because then maybe you wouldn't, you wouldn't have those worries.
Oh, sure. I mean, ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying there might be some times where
I
it's
mean,
like,
you could just hit yourself in the head with a hammer. I mean,
what's different?
but anyway, so yeah, the Alan Scott is sent to the. Well, he's not sent to. He gets discharged, and then he's like, "I need to like cure myself, so I'm going to, uh, like self. What's it called? Self. He signs himself in to Arkham, which makes him think that he can get out at any point. But we find out later that's not true. So we get to see him in this like gay conversion Arkham wing. His roommate is what's her name?
Um,
Billy. Billy.
Billy, yeah.
So Billy is I'm not sure if she's a trans woman or if she's a drag queen that just likes to be called she.
That's true. They don't specify that, and then yeah,
We don't know. Obviously, in this place, she's presenting male because they don't let her dress like a female. Even though I was kind of like, wow, they have pretty lax security measures here because she's got a wig on and stuff, and like putting makeup when Alan Scott wakes up in his bed in the first issue or the second issue here. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess they don't search premises or something very often, I guess. Or she hides it really well.
she hides it real well. Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, Billy is like in groups with him, with Alan, and like they're friends, they're roommates. And Billy's actually the one that gives him the lantern. Now, I read this and was like, this is the weirdest like story point I've ever read in a comic where it's like, hey, I got a present for you. Thanks for being awesome. You're a great friend. I made you this. And apparently they have like metal shop or whatever, like in Arkham for this wing, maybe, I guess, because they're not dangerous. I don't know. But they, Billy in metal shop, I guess, made Alan a lantern out of a special metal that he found that was like unlike any other metal he ever saw. So it's literally the Green Lantern. I looked this up because I'm like, what is the origin story of the Green Lantern itself? And it was in the original like story, I guess it was a person at a metal facility like found this metal and made this lantern out of it. So they're just kind of like retconning how the circumstances around that. But did you think that was weird at all?
Oh yeah, no, I was like, okay, this is like he's making friends or whatever, and we're like, okay, this Billy this Billy girl is interesting, and then she's like, oh yeah, hey, I made this for you, and yeah, it's a lantern. It's like, oh, like outside of the prospect of like knowing where this story goes, that's very random.
Yeah, yeah, it just seemed like out of place. But then I was like, I guess they're like in continuity of what actually happened. They're like shoehorning in, probably like it was shoehorned in originally in the original story or something. But yeah, so I do like that. I like the character Billy. I think she's cool as like a friend for him and a friend for Alan in this place. They get to talk about a lot of issues around, you know, the conversion of gay people and whatnot, or conversion of conversion to non-hetero people or of non-hetero people, and how it's looked at by society overall. But the sad thing is, like, the reason why I brought up lobotomy is because Billy eventually gets lobotomized, and it's like pretty messed up, I thought. They bring Billy out and she's got a big fat eyeball, like a bruised eye, where they put the ice pick and scrambled her brains. And then, you know, so that was like, wow, that's super messed up. But that stuff happened. So, yeah. good for them and making that fit. But yeah, and also in the meantime, the lantern, like when Alan's because Billy gets taken by the doctors to go do this procedure, and Alan has to like sleep the night by himself for a couple days actually. And the lantern that Billy made him is talking to him, and so it is also sentient, just like the red crimson flame was, right? So, Alan has been keeping a journal, and maybe you're gonna have to clarify this for me, John. So it looks like Alan's keeping a journal where he's kind of telling everything like it really is. Meaning he's writing like, I'm gay. You know, I'm attracted to men. I had this relationship. I want to have more relationships. He's being honest about it. But they find this journal, and these little journal snippets are on like legal paper, and they're around. And so like we're reading what's in the journal as like he's writing it, I'm assuming. And once they find this journal, the people are like, well, now you're like officially a deviant because you're like not trying to get better. So you can't even like check yourself out, even though you checked yourself in. So now we're like going to take you in. And
I thought they were going to lobotomize him at first.
Right. But they said ECT. So I'm like, okay, they're going to like electrocute him or whatever. So I knew that much. And also like the first book ended with him getting electrocuted. So I thought, okay, that's where that comes in. But yeah, so because of that, he gets electrocuted. Apparently it didn't like clear his brain or anything. Like he recovers well enough to say like, you know what, I'm breaking out of this place. I got this lantern to light the way. I know he's not the Green Lantern yet. He just has the lantern, but he's not been turned into the Green Lantern yet. So he's just a normal dude breaking out of this place, and he's also like, I'm gonna break everybody else out with me because fuck having all these people here for this stupid reason, that they're gay or whatever. So he makes a jailbreak with everybody, or a asylum break, and some of the people he meets, or like one or two of the guys he meets, he has relationships with while they're like traveling on a train and stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah, one of the guys he meets on with the train as Derek.
Okay. But I had a question. This was the question I forgot to say. So later on, they talk about time travel because apparently, I don't know if this is a new thing, but they introduced the idea that the ring that Alan Scott has, like he goes through walls and stuff with it. Like he becomes incorporeal, like.
Yeah,
Kitty
like breaks
Pryde.
the fourth wall dimension.
Well, but we didn't know that. I mean, he just does that, and then now they're telling us in this, it's dimensional travel that you're doing. So, which is also time travel. Like you can do that too. And they make it seem at the end like all these journal entries that we've been reading snippets of are from future Alan Scott, and he gave it to himself. Is that right? Or did you get that?
Yeah, that's what I got. Like it was like more of like the long spoiler of this all now is that I guess that we're learning is that Alan Scott was like, life sucks with some of the things that you're gonna go through, but it's okay, it's all worth it. So like just let it happen.
Yeah, isn't that one of like the greatest things that could ever happen? Is you get a notebook and it's like, don't worry, bro. I'm you in the future. It's all going to be good. And then you're like, okay, like that would be great to have some confirmation on the future, but
yeah,
nope.
I mean, it still would make things like being in a place that's trying to change who you are. I don't know if it still would be like,
well, if you wrote that to yourself, okay, it ends up okay.
Yeah. Like, I'll just put up with this. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's okay. So what my question is, did he write just that? Like, it's okay, buddy, you're going to be fine. Or did he write the notebook that Alan Scott is carrying around this whole time?
Oh, the whole notebook. Oh, yeah. That's a good. I mean, I guess maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe he did write the whole notebook. And if he had I don't know if we had the whole chain of events to give him. That's
yeah. That's why I was like, I don't know. It made it seem like he did, but then I'm like, maybe it's a different thing or something. So like there's a notebook, but maybe the piece of paper that's on legal paper that we're seeing is a different note, but they didn't make that clear. So they didn't separate the two. Whenever I saw the notebook, and then it seemed like they were journal entries that we were reading that was on like yellow legal paper. But then they would show the notebook. So I'm like, okay, I guess that's his journal that we're reading from. So I got confused a little bit on that. But anyway, so Alan Scott, he's traveling around the country kind of, he's got a job as a, I guess what he was originally was like a train engineer, like a train lighting engineer or something, or whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called. Safety engineer. He's the guy that puts the lanterns out and does all like the how the tracks will work. He's not the guy that drives the train. He devises the whole way the tracks work with each other. So he's that. He's like got levers and stuff as he's doing that. And a competitor for a different train engineer or train company or whatever bombs what he's working on, and that's when his powers kick in. That's when his Green Lantern actually, like, it looks like he's dead maybe or dying, and then the lantern gives him life. So that's when he officially becomes Green Lantern. And yeah. So one thing I like is through these you do get to see like other characters interact, and the third issue has the Spectre, and I thought that was fun. I don't know if we've only read one Spectre book, right? Me and you.
Yeah, but I was, as soon as I saw the Spectre, I got excited because I've enjoyed what we read from him. He has a very unique powers, and I mean, he's very vengeful as far as like bringing justice. So I like that.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be like the vengeance of God himself or themselves, and so it's kind of like a good character to be like, look, gay's not even on God's radar. Because the whole thing is like Alan Scott is thinking that he's like a sinful man and wrong for having these thoughts, even though he has them, and he's like, I can't change who I am. So the Spectre kind of clears that up for him, because he's like, look, God doesn't even register that shit. He only, that's not sin. Sin is this other stuff. So
yeah, this was actually one of my favorites because it was very detective-y, this issue, as far as like, trying to like kind of figure things out. And then, like you said, this part where they're like talking through, and he's like, yeah, like, you're not judging them for like that. You're judging them for like who their character is and who they're like,
their actions. And
yeah,
stuff.
Exactly. And I'll say they have this moment of embrace where it's like, you're okay, you're an honorable person, and every time that you choose, there's a lion chooses light and love over darkness and shame, like you're doing what God wants you to do anyway. So like, don't even. It was really cool. It was very heartfelt and cool from such a like dark and like forceful character like you think of as a Spectre. So I really like this issue a lot.
Yeah. I like the Spectre a lot anyway as a character, so it was fun seeing him fly around and get into people's brains and stuff, because he just like digs around in your brain and whatnot. I didn't know how violent he was going to be in this, because in some of the other comics I've read, he gets pretty violent, like just murdering people straight up and stuff, because he's like the spirit of vengeance. So if you've done something bad, he'll just kill you.
I was wondering that too, because he does like you said, they're being detective-y a little bit, and then they're kind of in between people, and then he's like, at the end, they're going to part ways and like meet back up, and he's like, if you find who this person is, bring him to me.
Yeah, right. And I thought that was going to happen. I was like, is the Spectre going to show up at the end and just like murder his first love or whatever? But that didn't happen. Spoilers. So anyway, this third issue, I mean, I liked it a lot. It definitely is just kind of like we're detecting and detectiving is happening. Like, so it's giving you a lot of story beats. It was pretty interesting though. Once I got to here, I was very much on board with like what they're searching for and everything. And what they're searching for is the connection between, there's been more victims now, and they've all kind of died in a similar fashion, and they were all lovers of Alan Scott at some time. So the connection, they're trying to figure out what's the connection between all these things and Alan, and who could be doing it, and who knows that Alan Scott has lovers, So they're trying to figure that out. In the background, one of Alan's friends is a cabbie He's driving this guy around who's got like red glowy eyes. So we're like, okay, that's probably the main bad guy. And the guy's like, take me to Alan Scott's, neighborhood. I need to talk. He doesn't say I need to talk to Alan Scott. He's just like, oh, I live there too. And the cabbie's like, oh, my friend Alan lives there. He's like, oh, what a coincidence. But there's a lot of like kind of funny back and forth where it's like, bro, are you an idiot? Like everywhere you're talking about, it's like, also like he picks the guy up in the morning, takes him to where Alan Scott is. Then he picks the guy up and takes him to Alan Scott's house. Like, and it's at 2 different times a day. And he's like, what are the chances I'd ever pick up the same guy twice? It's never happened in my 20 years of being a cabbie. And I'm like, hey, bro, like, pay the fuck attention.
It's a strange happenstance, man.
Yeah. Just, the chances, 1 in a million, but, there's more than 1 million people in New York. So, anyway, he's taking around the bad guy. The bad guy doesn't do anything to him, though, which was nice. He didn't kill Alan Scott's friend. But he does go to Alan Scott, and this is where the kind of first appearance of, or not first appearance, but the first time we see the Red Lantern. Do they call him the Crimson Flame as well, or is it just the Red Lantern?
I think they just call him the Red Lantern, but that's how he got his power, yeah.
But, okay, like we were saying, this guy is so well designed as a time, like he feels like he is from the 40s or the 50s, something like that, because the costume looks great, but it looks dated. It's got a big popped collar, like an old school kind of villain and stuff. And then also he's got the beard. I'm like, if you're a commie in 1940s, 1950s, you have to have a beard. All right. That was like a common thing. You knew that, right? Did you know that?
Yeah.
Beards were considered commie facial hair. So, we find out that this guy is Russian because he speaks in Russian at the end, but also he says like my love to Alan as he like hits him and knocks him on the ground. So we're like, wait, who could this be? It has to be Johnny. So it is in fact Johnny. And it turns out that Johnny is a Russian spy. Belarusian spy, but I mean, at the time it was Russia. So, it just talks about how we get like in the 4th issue, we get his whole backstory of how he's a Russian spy. Then he gets like recruited to, because they want the power of the Crimson Flame. So they're like, you need to work undercover with the Army Corps of Engineers, and then he just happened to meet Alan Scott, but was using him for this purpose. I don't know how I felt about that. I kind of wish he had actually fallen for him.
Well, that's the thing. See, because at first that was my thing. Is I was like, oh, what a fucking dick!
Asshole,
like the whole love affair was a lie. I was like, this guy's a piece of shit.
I know that's what he says later, right? I know later he's like, I do love you, but when he's telling the story, he's telling it like, I didn't give a fuck about this guy. I was using him because I saw the way he was looking at me, and I'm like, oh, I'll go gay for Russia. So, I was, like you said, kind of mad that it was like a fake love or whatever.
Yeah. No, they made him an excellent bad guy. Like, again, it just felt natural. Like, A, he's like, again, the mirror image of the Green Lantern. And then B, he took advantage of him. And just like, that's the worst fucking thing you could do. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, because also like Alan Scott's, I think it felt extra like dishonorable because Alan Scott is particularly vulnerable because he's a gay man in the 30s or 40s, right? So it's like he thinks he found love with someone, he thinks he found a partner who gets him and he loves him back and understands him and everything, and it turns out it's just a fucking spy. And I don't know, it's extra betraying, extra betrayal. I don't like it. But yeah, we do find out that everything that happened on the ship was real as far as he gets thrown off. Johnny goes in the ocean, gets pulled in by the Crimson Flame. He dies, then comes back to life. Then he gets captured by the Russians. Or not captured, but he's brought in by the Russians. And then they do a bunch of experimenting on him because they're like, okay, how did you die and come back to life? And we want to harness this power. Now, he says, like, I would die as they were experimenting on me, and then I would come back to life, and I didn't know what happened in between. So, like, turns out, we find out later, they were experimenting and stuff with other, or how to use the Crimson Flame from him. Now, it seems like the Crimson Flame is more than just him because there's a lot more energy than just him. But did it all become him at that point?
I think it's like maybe in him, and maybe they're extracting some from him.
Okay. Yeah, so once, the bad guy basically has, the Red Lantern has his reveal of like, this is what I did and this is blah, blah, blah. And he's telling this to Alan. So, he has his Dr. Evil moment where he tells everything. And then now they have a big fight as Alan like gets up from the punch that knocked him on the ground. And then they fight through the whole city. And now I will say this, the radio had said like, the announcer was like, the Green Lantern was spotted earlier at the bank robbery. And then Alan was like, I'm not there yet. Those guys are ahead of me. But then what they were reporting on was they saw the Red Lantern take someone, which was the first guy that was murdered. And I'm like, are they stupid? They don't know the difference between green and red? Like, and he looked nothing like Alan Scott at all. I mean, he's got the popped collar. That's about it. But different colors.
Yeah, exactly.
Facial hair.
Like you said, he's a mirror, but like then they do the Bizarro thing where it's like reverse colors, and then like he's got like again in this case he's got dark hair, and a beard.
A beard. Very obviously not the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Alan Scott who's clean-shaven. Also, he's using red instead of green, but whatever. Anyway, they're dumb back then.
Well, that guy must be the Green Lantern. Look at that red sheen.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, okay, whatever. I'll go with it. But anyway, so as they're fighting, we're finding out like there comes a point where they're just kind of talking to each other. And I think it's when Red Lantern thinks that he's won, he does say like, no, I did love you. Like I did like you and we had a thing. And yeah. And so this is actually a ploy by Alan Scott to knock the Red Lantern out of his hand. And Alan Scott grabs it, and then he somehow charges his ring with the Red Lantern power. And it doesn't seem to have any ill effects on him. I mean, it looks like it hurts his arm a little bit, but nothing ever really comes from it in this. Did you have a problem with that?
No. It did. I think in the moment it did, because like it like enrages him, or it builds upon his rage from being being not cheated on, but being lied to about all this.
It does make him more like angry, but it doesn't like. I thought it was going to kill him because it literally killed Johnny.
That's true.
I thought he was going to like burn from the inside out or something, and then the green light would have to revive him or something.
Well, I think that it if anything, it just like it maybe it went through him really fast. Like he was like it overwhelmed him.
Yeah, I guess so. But you would think, oh, I can't charge my Green Lantern with a red power battery. But what do I know? But anyway,
it's like trying to plug an American outlet into a European socket.
Exactly, or vice versa.
Good
luck with that. Also, it's 240 volts over there, so your whatever you're plugging in is going to die real quick. It's going to work really fast for a minute, and then
I've seen European Vacation. I know how that works.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. When I went to Ukraine, I had to buy like an adapter for all my chargers and stuff. So, anyway, they go back to fighting because of this, because Alan gets supercharged by the Red Lantern, by the actual Lantern, and. So as they're fighting, then all of a sudden, Alan's friend, the cabbie, I don't remember what his name is, but Derby, he brings Alan's Green Lantern, because he knows that Alan is Green Lantern, to the fight zone, and then it shoots a beam into Alan to like cleanse him, I guess. And we get a little bit of this is like he goes into like a a Green Lantern dimension. I would call it the Green if it was Swamp Thing, where like you go into this other world, but it's like a Green Lantern dimension where it's the green light or whatever. And there's a figure here telling him all about the Green Lantern and what it is, and this is where they tie in like Oa, which was a strictly Silver Age thing before. I don't know if it's before this, but originally it was a strictly Silver Age thing with like the Guardians, but they say like, oh, the Guardians tried to make lanterns before the ones that did work with Hal Jordan, and it failed because it split into two powers, the red and the green, and then the Red Lantern came to Earth, and so did the green, but the Red Lantern just stayed, or the Red Flame, or Crimson Flame, stayed in the ocean at the bottom of the ocean where it landed, but the Green Lantern power like became a metal, and that's why it got fashioned into a lantern or whatever.
I have one question for you in this section, because I was telling my wife about this and she was like, does that, since the flames were, they tried to do this, but they were sentient, does that mean like they were just trying to control like a Titan kind of creature, like from just being its, like living its life? And are the
ocean, you mean?
Well, so they tried to create
because it is sentient.
Yeah. So like, are they kind of like, are the Guardians kind of pieces of shit for doing
Well,
this?
we've already established the Guardians are pieces of shit multiple times.
That's true. I mean, anytime what is it? Because they created all the lanterns,
yes,
right? So,
and also like Parallax and all that stuff too. So
it's like, well, fuck you guys. I'm gonna go make my own lantern.
Yeah.
So okay. I guess the Guardians are kind of
they're pieces of shit. So I mean, it depends who's writing it, obviously, but generally that's what happened. So anyway, and they also connected to like the emotional spectrum. They actually connect this Green Lantern, Alan Scott Green Lantern, more to the emotional spectrum lanterns, which are something that's coming out now in Green Lantern. There's like a sadness lantern.
Oh.
And there's some other like emotional spectrum lanterns that are being made right now in the current run. So this might be like them tying that stuff into that as well, because they probably knew about it when this was being written. I think Green Lantern was already being written by Jeremy Adams, which is the current run, when this was coming out. So, I think he's tying it into that as well. So that's kind of cool. I like it when they tie stuff into current continuity. But anyway, so now Alan snaps out of that. It turns out it was just a second, even though it felt like a long time for that explanation. So Alan's like back in the game, and then it turns out like he's cured. He's not angry. Red Lantern's like, you know what? We're okay. Like I think I don't hate you anymore or whatever, or like I'm not going to fight you. And then they're outside and they see these red beams shooting up out of, like red energy shooting up out of the ground, destroying the city. And Red Lantern's like, what the heck? I'm the Red Lantern. I have the red power. What the hell is this? And it turns out that there was like reports of a Soviet sub off of the coast, and it turns out that the Soviets sent a super team that they made from the Red Lantern that they siphoned off of Red Lantern Johnny when he was under anesthesia or whatever, when he was dead. So yeah, what do you think of this super team?
Oh, they're basically cannon fodder, but I loved all of the thought and like ridiculousness that went into this team. Like they're all like little plays on a little part, a little thing from that history of that time, and it's fantastic. And their outfits, and I love it.
Yeah, well, there's one called the Proletary Ant.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's ridiculous, but sure.
And he's kind of got like a cosmonaut suit, like, so I assumed he could also like use something like that to his advantage. And then I really liked Professor Molotok, because like she's got this red energy, and so she's got like this red hammer and sickle that she's created. They're pretty fantastic.
They're pretty fun, even though they're beat instantly. Pretty much, they fight a little bit, but they get beat no matter what, because the JSA shows up. So the JSA gets called in because like Alan wasn't working with them really, so he didn't call him in, but we find out that they got called in by, I don't remember who called them in. Was it his friend?
Yeah, maybe it was Derby that called him in.
Might have been Derby. Someone that knows that he's Green Lantern or whatever called them in. So, and then so the JSA fights all these people. They're called the Crimson Host. This Soviet band of Crimson Flame
Misfits
people, yeah. And so the JSA handles them quickly. Not too much else there that happens, but the main thing is, well, like they get handled quickly, but the last guy's pretty hard, and Johnny, as the Red Lantern, takes him on, like uses all his power, basically like the dude just like evaporates. I was like, that's pretty sick. He just murdered the guy, but I was like, okay, he killed the guy, but it was a bad guy. So I guess the JSA...
It's okay, I guess. Yeah.
He does have to go to prison for the people that he did kill, which also were lovers of Green Lantern, Alan Scott. So he accepts that and he goes to prison, I guess. Right?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Like they quit fighting. They're like, yeah, we don't, this is obviously a bigger threat too. And like, we don't need to fight. So then they do this, they fight with the JSA, and then he does it. Yeah. Johnny slash, what's his name? What's his actual name? Vlad. Of course it is. Yeah,
Sokov.
Because he's Russian. Yeah.
Vladimir Sokov.
I mean, again, like him, like fucking like obliterating the people was pretty fucking awesome. But then, yeah, he's like, I'm the bad guy. And like, yeah, then giving his ring. And then, yeah, he goes. Then it's like a little bow on it. Then it's like he goes to jail. Green Lantern Derby's like, yeah, that happened. And Green Lantern goes to visit him in jail. And he's like, it's okay. Like, you said you were the villain, and like all these bad things happen, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what I came here to say is that though the world may never forgive you, I do.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of lame at the end, actually. I was like, I guess, I don't know. He's like a golden age hero, so I don't think he would forgive him personally. And also, he didn't know him for that long. It was his first love, but he killed all his other loves, who were innocent people.
I think that after the story, even if he said after he told him, like, I was just lying to you this whole time, and even after that, when he's like, well, yeah, I kind of loved you, but like after all of that, I still don't think I could forgive somebody. So like, it's a little, but
it's a little what's that called? Like sickly sweet or whatever. There's a word for it, but I can't remember. Saccharine at the end. But yeah, but then we find out like the Red Lantern says bye as Green Lantern flies away, and he's like, well, you don't have your ring anymore. Or the Green Lantern says that to him, and then if we find out that he doesn't need a ring anymore, he is Soviet. He's the red burns inside of me. So, yeah, he conjures a little red flame as he's in jail, so we know that he's still gonna be a bad guy, I guess, or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, so. Also, we get like J. Edgar Hoover getting told what's what by Alan Scott. Basically, J. Edgar's like, you better do what we say still. And Alan Scott's like, I don't care if you tell people I'm gay anymore. And then he also agrees to work with the JSA just because. But then we cut to, do we know what time period this is that we cut to as he's talking to his son? It's got to be present day, right? Like,
yeah, I think it's supposed to be present day.
Yeah, like 2022 or whatever.
Future, yeah.
And he's talking to his son Obsidian, who is on the current JSA, and he tells him, like, I did love your mother. I love you and your sister. This is all that. Everything going around, like, everything that happened in continuity from the past still matters. It's just in a new context of I was gay. I was a gay man hiding it for the most part. The JSA also were like, we know you're gay. You're fine. We don't care.
But I like him like talking to his son about it.
I liked that too.
Coming through that, yeah.
I thought that was good. I just thought it was weird to cut to those time periods and not have like present or something to tell us what the fuck is going on.
Other than, I will say he grows a beard. Like
he grows a beard.
His first lover. So, but other than that, like,
I don't know if it was in response to that, but because he does have a beard at points in the 90s and stuff in the 2000s. So,
but either way, it was still like, I agree. Like other than like maybe some close up where you can see they give him more lines on his face, you wouldn't know that
No,
we
we
were
would
in
just
like
chalk
a
it up to the green ring keeps you young or something
yeah.
at that
So
point. And that's why like then we see like he does travel back in time because he writes like a letter that says Alan on it. But I guess that is it's not a journal he's sending him. It is like a piece of paper, I guess, or a legal paper with all this information on it. So
oh yeah, okay. So it is the letter.
yeah. So I guess the journal is something he was writing in the 30s and 40s. Then he wrote himself this note and gave it to him in the past. But we never saw the note in the past. We only saw snippets of it, like if it had been torn out from the note, as narration or whatever. So I was confused. That's fine. Anyway, and that's the end of it. He flies away like, you know what? It is fine being loved and being gay, and it's fine. Like everybody's accepting me, and it's great. It was a very hopeful ending. Like there's a lot of the note that he sent. We get the full actual ending of it, so it's got a good message at the end about like being who you are. And
Yeah, and there's a little thing right after he tells off J. Edgar Hoover too about like I guess Billy showing like maybe Billy got a little bit of themselves back, but basically saying like we're here and like we're always going to be here, and it's not like we're not hurting anybody, like we're all like living together, and like yeah, everything's gonna work out.
So it was a nice message, and that's the end of it. So John, what would you give him? What do you think?
I liked it a lot, for not having. I mean, definitely less of a knowledge of this character than you at the beginning.
And I had almost zero. I haven't read any Alan Scott Green Lantern.
I think the only thing, well, man, maybe we were in the same boat. The only thing I knew was that he was a Green Lantern, and that he's like the original, and that his weakness was wood, which, yeah.
They make a joke about that like his son actually says, can you believe that your weakness is wood? And it's like a dick joke, I think, because he's like, you gay and you're allergic to wood, or like your weakness is wood. Come on. Like, yeah. I thought that was a fun joke.
Yeah, it's a fun little throw in. So, but yeah, it was so it was an interesting to learn about a character and get like some previous stuff, but then this retcon, and like I liked it. Like I don't feel like anything in it was. It was a little bit like long in the beginning as far as like to get going, but then once it started going, like I was in the ride for the story, and again, like the learning who the villain was, and then like the way that they wrote him from there forward, and they did a really good job. And the art in this is really solid. And all of the action stuff is really cool. There's a lot of cool little splashes between their fight and us, and then some of the JSA stuff. Like Dr. Fate had some cool little pieces in there, and again that whole issue with the Spectre I really enjoyed. Yeah, it was a fun comic, and I think it was a really good way to bring about some diversity in an LGBTQ story without like it feeling like a shoehorn, like sometimes they can, especially nowadays.
I think they did a good job like tying into the established continuity that was already there,
Yeah. I thought this was really good. So I really enjoyed it, and I would give this one, I give it a solid 7, honestly.
Oh, okay. I had problems with the storytelling parts of it. I was like, I really like the idea behind this comic, and the parts that were really well written and like well told, I liked. My problem is the flow of it. Like, it starts off with a newspaper page. I'm like, is there a more boring first page of a comic? And I was like, I guess I have to read this because it's the first page. It must be important, like, and it wasn't really. And like it was like just establishing like we know who Green Lantern is. I'm like, you could have done that another way, or just assumed we know who he is since we're picking up this book. But and also this is an origin story. They go through his origin of how he gets the lantern and everything. We don't need any of that newspaper that was there to set it up. And then, I just felt like the first 10 pages were like the romance between him and Johnny. and I was like, this is really boring to me. Like, we're on a ship, we're making out, we're taking pictures, we're trying to hide from, our higher ups or whatever. But it was just like, nothing's really happening here. And I kind of wish they'd figured out a way to like start it off with a bit of energy first and then like slowly pepper in the past stuff to make it more exciting. Because it really didn't pick up for me until like the end of 2 and 3. Like, that's where I was like, oh, now I'm fully on board. But if you're expecting me to buy this monthly, the first one's got to be a banger, right? Like, you can't start off slow.
That's true. And, I think even still after doing this podcast for 5 years, I think that I still do not always look back on being like, oh yeah, this is like a monthly thing. And like, how did this keep people interested this whole time?
That's crazy, John. That's crazy.
I know. That's ridiculous. That's how casual of a reader I am. And even though I go to the comic shop and I will buy individual, to check them out and then like go and pick some up, I still I just don't think of comics reading that way. And I feel silly thinking that.
You are silly. Actually, you're not that silly because that's most comics are written now for the trade. I personally miss the storytelling power of the issue, like pacing.
Yeah. Because
I think you could do both. I think you can write for the trade and make every issue great. Like there's no reason why you can't. But and they even do some of that. Like the end of issue 1 has him like getting kicked out of the army, and the last splash page is him getting ECT, electric shock therapy. And that's a pretty good cliffhanger, right?
Yeah.
So they are thinking about it. Just the first 10 pages and the first page, I was like, what the fuck? This is the most boring intro to a comic I've ever read. And I was like, if the whole thing is like this might be bad. But luckily it was not. By the middle of the first one, I was like, okay, I can tell it's not all going to be like that. But I wasn't really like into it for a while because it took so long to like take off. And then also the whole thing with like the past, the present, and the present, like the past, the middle past, and the present, we'll call it. So it's like the old past, the middle past, and the current day. It's like they didn't really distinguish between the two enough, at least in the trade that I was reading. Like I didn't notice a difference in the coloring until I started reading it on my computer screen. And then I'm like, oh, it's not even a difference in coloring. It's the same color, but they just put a like diffuser on top of it that's like a dot matrix to give it like a grayish tone. So like, but I didn't pick that up in the trade. And then the stuff where he's talking to his son, which is also peppered out through each of these, issues, wasn't colored different at all. So I was like, where are we? And some of them didn't show it. Like, I don't think they showed him with his beard in those shots. So I was like, I don't know. I don't know where we're at. Why are we cutting to this room where he's talking to someone and then cutting back to 1941, which I thought was the present day, but it's not. So yeah, like there was just things like that I was like, storytelling wise, it wasn't very clean, but I liked the story. I liked the ideas in the story. So, and I really, really liked Red Lantern. I was like, I want to see this guy in more stuff. Like I kind of wish he had like 50s comics and later. Like if he appeared in the JSA in the 90s, I would love to go back and read that stuff. But he's not in anything, so it's just this stuff. So I was like, damn, there's nothing to like really dig into. But I liked it. I think it did a good job of like introducing Alan Scott's or like tying in all of his already established continuity to this, the new retcon of him being gay. So when I say new, it's like 15 years old now, but they hadn't really done that, I guess. They just were like, he's gay, and everybody, I think that's why people get pissed at that a lot. It's not necessarily because they're homophobic, it's because you're like, you didn't do the work to explain how this makes sense. So like now you changed my thing. Like I like this thing, and then you're telling me it's not the thing anymore or whatever. So I'm like, well, how does that make sense? He's got a kid, he's got a wife. We've never known about this at all. So I like the fact that they took this miniseries to be like, this is how it all connects. And it's like,
Connects,
okay,
yeah. And
perfect.
they did, and they did a good job of that. And not only that, they made a really good villain within that too. Like they did a really cool job.
I like that. I like that also that Jeff Johns is the one that like thought of that villain and then was like, go run with it. So I love Jeff Johns. Like his JSA runs are great, and I'm a big fan of his Green Lantern run. So it's nice that he kind of like set this up well in the world. Because I read his JSA run and it only lasted 12 issues because he couldn't, I guess he was working on other stuff too and he just couldn't do it in that. So it kind of floundered out, but it didn't really flounder out in the comic. I thought the comic was pretty solid, but it only had 12 issues. So, but he's previously done runs of JSA that have like 90 issues or hundreds or something. So, and then he even had like the JSA Confidential run that I wrote a post about for Patreon and stuff. So, he dabbles in a lot of these characters, and he created Stargirl and stuff in the JSA. So, done a lot of work. So I like that he kind of seeded this book and then the Sandman book that they did, and then I think there's a Flash book that they did, and I think those were all really well received. So it's fun, and but I don't know if I think some of the writing flaws, I don't know if Tim Sheridan's a newer writer or what he's worked on other than like a couple Pride issues and maybe a miniseries or two. I don't know if he's written a monthly, but to me, his storytelling, or at least what was going on in the book, like story-wise, could have been cleaner or like better told for excitement for the reader, Like if this was just like a romance book, sure, whatever. But like it's a superhero comic. So I want to see some extreme fun explosions and shit in the first page or whatever, and then tell me how the romance happened. But anyway, so I'm going to give it a 6. I think it's better than a 5. It didn't quite make it up there for me because of the storytelling stuff, but I really liked the story. I thought it was fun. I think it was a good story. So yeah. So with that, you give it a 7. I give it a 6. We did our Patreon poll vote, and this is the one that won. But we also had a runner-up, and that was it Carmilla, the
first vampire?
First vampire. Thank you. I was like, not last vampire, it's first vampire. So we're gonna do Carmilla for the Patreon exclusive this month. So if you guys would like to listen to that and also get access to all our other exclusive that we've done, you can join us at patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word. And speaking of patrons, we'd like to thank Hoku, Otaku Mike, Christian, Kalia, Kevin, James, Craig, Leroy, and Michael. You guys are awesome. Keeping the boat afloat. We like doing this all for you guys. So thank you for voting, and hopefully you guys enjoy the exclusive this month. So with that being said, we'll see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.